I came home early from a business trip and found my husband in bed with my sister. Frozen, I watched as he whispered, "She'll never find out." My sister smirked, "She's too dumb to notice." Shaking, I walked in and dropped the divorce papers on the bed. His face went white as I said, "I took everything, including your job." I don't know how to start this. I'm still shaking as I write. My mind is racing. My hands won't stop trembling. But I need to get this out before I lose my nerve. I've been married to Ryan for 8 years. He was my best friend, my rock, my everything. The kind of man who made people jealous of our relationship. Or at least, that's what I thought. Turns out, I was just the idiot in the story. Claire, my sister, was my closest friend growing up. We were only a year apart, shared clothes, and had matching necklaces as kids. If you told me a year ago that she would betray me like this, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. I had a business trip. 3 days. A marketing conference in Miami. Ryan wasn't thrilled about me going, but that wasn't new. He always made a big deal about me leaving town, acting like I was abandoning him. I thought it was cute. Now I see it for what it was, guilt. The conference wrapped up a day early. Instead of spending the night at the hotel, I booked an earlier flight home. I didn't even tell Ryan. I wanted to surprise him. The cab pulled up to our house a little after 10. His car was in the driveway, which confused me. He told me he had a late work meeting. But okay, maybe plans changed. I let myself in. The house was quiet. Dark. Not a single light on, which was weird. Ryan always left a light on for me when I traveled. I set my bag down and took off my shoes, walking through the house. Then I heard it. A giggle. A very familiar giggle. My heart started pounding. I wasn't thinking straight. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe the TV was on upstairs. Maybe he had a friend over. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then I heard his voice, low and smug. "She'll never find out." And then Claire's voice. My sister's voice. "She's too dumb to notice." I froze. My ears started ringing. My legs locked up. I felt like I was going to pass out. I don't know how long I stood there before my body started moving on its own. My feet dragged me up the stairs, my hands gripping the railing so tight I thought I'd snap it in half. I stopped outside our bedroom door. It was open just a crack. I didn't need to push it further. I saw enough. Ryan, my husband. Claire, my sister, my bed, our bed. I can't describe what it feels like to watch your entire world shatter in front of you. I thought I'd scream. Thought I'd cry. Thought I'd throw something. I did none of that. I just stood there, cold and empty, my brain struggling to process what my eyes were seeing. Ryan was whispering something to Claire. He kissed her neck. She giggled again, running her fingers down his chest. I wanted to die. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out a stack of papers, and stepped into the room. Claire saw me first. She gasped, scrambling to pull the sheets up to cover herself. Ryan turned next, eyes wide, face going pale. I didn't say anything. I just walked forward, slow and steady, my heartbeat thumping so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Then I dropped the divorce papers on the bed. Silence. Ryan's mouth opened and closed, like a fish gasping for air. Claire just stared, her face draining of color. "Surprise," I said. My voice sounded foreign, distant. Someone else was speaking through my mouth. Ryan sat up, pulling the blanket around himself like that would somehow erase what I just saw. "Babe, I don't." My voice was sharp, cutting through whatever pathetic excuse he was about to spit out. Claire was shaking her head. "It's not what it looks like." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Oh, so you're not naked in my bed? With my husband?" Claire flinched. Ryan tried again. Just listen. It was a mistake." I held up a hand. "I don't need to hear your excuses." He swallowed. "We can work through this." I smiled. I actually smiled. Because, as insane as this situation was, I wasn't walking into it blind. I wasn't as dumb as they thought I was. I turned my gaze to Claire. "Did you know I hired a private investigator?" Her lips parted. I nodded. "Yeah, about a month ago." "Guess what he found?" Ryan stiffened. I took a step forward, watching them shrink away from me. 6 months. 6. I let the word stretch out, let it hang heavy in the air. "That's how long you two have been fucking behind my back." Claire made a noise, somewhere between a sob and a gasp. Ryan just sat there, speechless. I exhaled slowly, my fingers tightening into fists. So no, this wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. This? I gestured between them. This was a choice. And now you get to live with it. Ryan's eyes darted to the papers on the bed. "Divorce?" His voice cracked. I nodded. "Already filed." His face twisted. You can't just decide that without talking to me." I tilted my head. Oh, I can. And I did. Then I smiled. And this part? This was my favorite. Also, just a heads up, I said, my voice sickly sweet. I took everything. His face drained of color. See, what Ryan didn't know was that while he was busy screwing my sister, I was busy screwing him over, legally, financially, professionally. He had signed documents without reading them. Documents that shifted control of our company to me. I own the house, I said, watching him struggle to breathe. I own the bank accounts. And as of this morning, I own the company too. Claire's mouth fell open. You wouldn't. I turned to her, my voice dripping with venom. And you? You're homeless. Because last I checked, your lease is up next week. Ryan looked like he was going to throw up. Claire started crying. I didn't care. I picked up my bag, turned on my heel, and walked out of the room. Ryan called after me, his voice breaking, begging me to talk. Claire said my name, reaching for me. I didn't look back. I walked out the front door, feeling lighter than I had in years. I wasn't done yet. Not even close. But for now, let them sit in it. Let them feel everything they had just lost. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't go to a friend's house. I didn't cry in my car. I went to a lawyer. By the time the sun rose the next morning, I had filed for full ownership of every asset in my name, locked Ryan out of every bank account, and ensured that the house, my house, would be secured under my control. Then I called the office. Ryan won't be coming in today, I told the head of HR. Confused silence. Excuse me? He's no longer with the company. I heard frantic typing. I don't see a resignation. That's because he didn't resign, I said, my voice like steel. I terminated him. More typing. Then a hesitant voice. But, he was CEO? I smiled. Was. By noon, Ryan's access was revoked. His company email? Deleted. His office keycard? Cancelled. Security was told to escort him out if he showed up. And that's when my phone started blowing up. Ryan, what the hell did you do? Ryan, you can't do this. You can't just take everything. Ryan, call me. Now. I ignored him. Then came Claire. Claire, I didn't mean for this to happen. Claire, please, just talk to me. Claire, I lost everything. Can we meet? Lost everything? Good. I put my phone on silent. I had no intention of letting either of them drag me into their mess. But then, things took a turn. Ryan showed up at my office. I was in the middle of a meeting when my assistant buzzed me. You did this, he hissed. I crossed my arms. You did this. This is my company, he shouted. You stole it from me. I tilted my head. You signed the papers. Remember? Too busy sneaking around to read the fine print. His hands balled into fists. You're insane. I stepped closer. And you're unemployed. He clenched his jaw. I'll sue. I let out a short laugh. Go ahead. Try. Ryan looked around, like he was hoping someone would step in, but everyone in the lobby just stared. Security took a step forward. Sir, you need to leave. He turned back to me, his voice dropping low. You don't have to do this. We could fix it. Work it out. My skin crawled. I leaned in, just enough for only him to hear. Did you say that to my sister, too? His face went blank. His jaw worked like he wanted to say something, but no words came. I stepped back and nodded to security. Get him out. As they dragged him toward the door, he turned and shouted something. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm sorry. I said nothing. I didn't mean for this to happen, she continued. Ryan, it started as a mistake, and then I held up my hand. Stop. She blinked. I took a deep breath, my heart hammering. I want you to tell me the truth. No more lies. When did it start? Claire swallowed. 6 months ago. I already knew that, but hearing her say it made my stomach churn. I took a step closer. How long have you had feelings for him? She flinched, and I knew. Longer than 6 months. God, I whispered. You're disgusting. She sobbed. I didn't want to fall for him. I didn't mean to. But he said you didn't love him anymore. That you were always working, that you were cold. I laughed. Actually laughed. She thought I was the problem? That I drove him to cheat? I shook my head. You're pathetic. Claire wiped her face. I lost everything. My apartment. My job. Him. She was crying like she was the victim in all this. Like she hadn't blown up my life. And then, she said the words that made my blood run cold. I think I'm pregnant. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Pregnant. With his child. I gave her a hard stare. You chose this. She shook her head. No, I stepped closer, voice low. Do you remember what you said that night? She's too dumb to notice. Her breath hitched. I let the silence stretch, watching as my words sank in. Then I turned, walked inside, and slammed the door. Let her sit in it. Let her deal with the mess she made. I wasn't done. Not even close. And if she thought this was the worst of it, she had no idea what was coming next. I thought I was done with them. I thought I could just walk away, let them burn in the mess they made. But the universe had other plans. Because the next morning, I woke up to police lights flashing outside my house. 2 officers. 1 warrant. I opened the door in my robe, blinking against the early morning sun. 2 cops stood on my porch. Are you my name? One of them asked. The shorter officer sighed. If that's the case, you'll have a chance to prove it. But for now, we need you to come with us. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Ryan was trying to flip the script. I had taken everything from him, his job, his house, his dignity, and now he was trying to destroy me in return. And the worst part? He had connections. Friends in high places. Lawyers who owed him favors. I had been so careful. So damn careful. But now I was standing barefoot on my porch, about to be cuffed like a criminal. I swallowed my pride, nodded, and let them take me to... I sat in an interrogation room, arms crossed, refusing to speak without my lawyer present. The door opened. And Ryan walked in. Not a cop. Not a lawyer. Ryan. I went cold. The officer beside him cleared his throat. Miss, last name, your ex-husband has agreed to drop the charges under certain conditions. Ryan stepped forward, sliding into the chair across from me. Let's talk. I forced my voice to stay calm. I have nothing to say to you. He smirked. Oh, I think you do. I clenched my jaw, waiting. Ryan leaned back, smug. You took everything from me. My job, my home, my reputation. His eyes darkened. Now I'm taking something from you. I exhaled sharply. You have nothing on me. He smiled, slow and cruel. Are you sure about that? The officer handed me a folder. I hesitated before opening it, but when I did, my blood ran cold. Inside were documents. Doctored documents. Bank transfers, fake emails, contracts manipulated to look like I had committed fraud. His smirk widened. I want my job back. My money. Everything you took from me. I laughed, shaking my head. Not happening. Ryan leaned in. Then enjoy prison, sweetheart. I wasn't stupid. I didn't spend years building a career, handling high-level deals, just to let some cheating loser frame me for a crime I didn't commit. I had prepared for this. I looked at the officer. I want my lawyer. Now. Ryan frowned. You sure you want to do that? I smiled. Oh, I'm very sure. Within the hour, my lawyer, David, walked in. He was a pit bull in a suit. The moment he saw the fake documents, he scoffed. This is laughable, David said, flipping through the pages. He looked at the officer. These are fabricated. You bring my client in here based on this garbage? The officer shifted uncomfortably. We were given a sworn statement from a man who was just fired for incompetence and infidelity. David slammed the folder shut. This won't hold in court. Ryan's smirk was slipping. You don't know that. David turned to me. Do you have proof of the original documents? I grinned. Oh, I have everything. Because unlike Ryan, I wasn't sloppy. Within 20 minutes, David had sent over the real contracts, the real bank statements, and emails proving Ryan had tried to hide his own financial mishandling. The officer sighed, rubbing his forehead. Looks like we'll have to do some more digging. Ryan paled. Wait, the officer raised a hand. Mr. Last Name, if any of these documents turn out to be falsified, you could be facing criminal charges. I smiled sweetly. Oops. Ryan shot out of his chair. You bitch, David stood, straightening his suit. I'd advise you to leave before you make things worse for yourself. Ryan's jaw clenched, his hands shaking at his sides. Then, without another word, he stormed out. The moment he was gone, I exhaled. My hands were still trembling. David turned to me. Are you okay? I nodded. I will be. Because now? It was war. That night, my phone rang. I expected it to be my lawyer. Or maybe a reporter. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan had tried to spin some sob story about how his evil ex-wife ruined his life. But it wasn't a lawyer. It wasn't a reporter. It was Claire. I almost declined the call. But something in me told me to answer. I put the phone to my ear. What? She was crying. Sobbing so hard she could barely speak. You were right, she gasped. My stomach twisted. Right about what? She let out a broken, shaking breath. I don't know who the father is. I stayed silent, waiting. And then she whispered something that made my blood freeze. Ryan's not the only one I was sleeping with. My grip tightened on the phone. Who? Silence. Then, so quiet I almost didn't hear it. Dad's business partner. I sucked in a breath. Holy shit. This just got a whole lot worse. Claire's confession sent a chill down my spine. I gripped my phone tighter, my voice deadly calm. Say that again. She sniffled. I don't know if the baby is Ryan's or Dad's business partner's. A sharp silence settled between us. My mind raced, trying to process what she had just admitted. Ryan wasn't the only man she had been sleeping with. She had options for who the father could be. And the other contender? A man old enough to be our father. I clenched my jaw. Who? Claire hesitated, then whispered. Greg. My stomach twisted. I arranged it myself. A dinner at my parents' house. A family gathering. Ryan was invited. Claire was invited. And so was Greg Hastings. Nobody knew why. I didn't tell my parents the full truth, only that I needed everyone in one place. Ryan showed up looking bitter, wearing a smug expression like he had won something. Claire looked nervous as hell. Greg, well, he looked his usual charming self. I sat at the head of the table. I had earned that right. My parents made small talk. My mom was happy to have us all together. My dad cracked jokes, oblivious. And then, when the meal was served, I clinked my glass. Let's play a game, I said. Everyone looked up. Ryan scoffed. Really? I ignored him. Let's call it secrets and consequences. Claire went pale. Greg shifted in his seat. Ryan smirked. You trying to make a point? I tilted my head. Oh, I am. Let's start with something simple. Claire, do you want to tell everyone who the father of your baby is? My mother gasped. My father looked at Claire, his face going slack. Claire swallowed hard, staring at her plate. I don't, I smiled, but there was no kindness in it. No? Let me help. I turned to Greg. What about you? Greg's face turned beet red. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled my phone out, tapped the screen, and played the recording. Claire's voice filled the dining room. I don't know if the baby is Ryan's or Dad's business partner's. Gasps. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stood so fast his chair scraped against the floor. Greg paled. That's taken out of context. I slammed my hand down. Shut up. Ryan turned to Claire, his face filled with horror. What the fuck is she talking about? Claire looked like she wanted to disappear. Greg backed up. Listen, you son of a bitch. Then, all hell broke loose. Ryan lunged at Claire. Greg tried to calm my father, but my dad threw a punch that sent Greg stumbling into a chair. My mother screamed. Claire collapsed into sobs, shouting that she didn't know what to do, that she was scared. Ryan's face was red with fury. You said you wanted me. You said we had a future. And the whole time, you were screwing some old man. Claire sobbed harder. I was stupid. I didn't mean. Ryan turned to me, his hands shaking. Did you know about this? I raised an eyebrow. You mean, did I know that the woman you betrayed me for was also betraying you? Yeah, I did. Ryan's jaw clenched. Claire sobbed. Please, I didn't know what to do. I thought I was pregnant with your baby. Ryan let out a hollow laugh. Oh, thought? That's rich. Greg groaned from where he was holding his jaw. My dad loomed over him, shaking with fury. You're done in this family, my father growled. Don't ever step foot in my house again. Greg stumbled to his feet, nodding quickly before practically running out the door. Ryan just stood there, his whole body shaking. I lost my wife for this? I smirked. You lost your wife because you're a cheating bastard. The fact that Claire was too is just poetic justice. Ryan exhaled shakily. You set me up. I shrugged. No, you set yourself up. Claire was still crying. I don't know what to do. Ryan turned on her, voice cold. Figure it out. Alone. And then, just like that, he walked out. The dust settled. Ryan left town. Rumor had it he tried to start over somewhere else, but the company blacklisted him. Nobody wanted to hire a disgraced former CEO with a history of screwing over both business and personal relationships. Greg's wife divorced him. His reputation was ruined. Claire? She had the baby. A paternity test revealed Greg was the father. She tried to reach out to me, tried to make amends. I never responded. Some things can't be forgiven. It took time, but I healed. I kept the house, kept the company, grew it bigger than Ryan ever could. I traveled. I made new friends. I built a life free of betrayal, free of backstabbing. And the best part? I never lost a single night of sleep over it. Because at the end of the day, they were the ones who ruined themselves. And me? I was just the one who made sure they had a front row seat to their own destruction.